Welcome to my YouTube channel Hindustan Times. Today we look back at a night that became part of modern history. A night when Iran launched a series of missile strikes against Israel and changed the course of events in the Middle East. It was not an ordinary night. It was one that shook cities, terrified populations, and captured the attention of the world. Even though time has passed, the memory of those hours remains vivid. That night began quietly, with daily life continuing as usual across Israel. Families gathered for dinner, streets were alive with their normal rhythm, and the world outside seemed stable. Then the sky suddenly lit up. From deep inside Iranian territory, one after another, missiles were launched. They cut across the sky like blazing streaks, heading directly toward Israeli cities and military sites. It was the beginning of a sequence of events that no one could easily forget. When the missiles reached their targets, the impact was devastating. Explosions thundered through the air, rattling the ground beneath. Buildings trembled as glass shattered and entire structures collapsed into rubble. Fires erupted, consuming neighborhoods, and thick black smoke rose high into the night sky. Streets that once echoed with the sounds of ordinary life fell silent except for sirens, explosions, and the cries of those caught in the chaos. Israel's defense systems, including the Iron Dome, immediately sprang into action. Some incoming missiles were intercepted and destroyed in midair, but the sheer number of rockets overwhelmed the defense grid. Many missiles slipped through and hit their designated targets. Strategic locations such as military bases, communication hubs, and energy facilities were struck. The night revealed the limitations of even one of the most advanced missile defense systems in the world. For the people on the ground, those hours were terrifying. Families rushed into underground shelters, parents clutched their children tightly, and entire communities shook with fear. Emergency sirens wailed across the country, warning of further incoming fire. Panic spread rapidly. It was a night when survival became the only thought in every household. Iran's leadership declared that the attack was a response to Israeli aggression. They announced that this was a warning, and if Israel did not change its course, more strikes would follow. Israeli officials, in turn, condemned the assault as an act of war, promising that Iran would face consequences. With these words, the tension escalated beyond borders, drawing global attention and fueling fears of a wider conflict. When the night finally ended, the damage was clear. Streets were deserted, power systems were disrupted, and water supplies in several areas had been cut. Cities known for their bright lights and bustling life were reduced to scenes of destruction, their skies filled with smoke and fire. The once lively neighborhoods now looked like silent ruins, testifying to the scale of the attack. News outlets around the world carried the images live. Burning buildings, collapsed infrastructure, and desperate rescue teams became the global picture of Israel that night. Firefighters struggled to contain blazes. Emergency workers searched for survivors, and hospitals filled with the wounded. The scale of destruction left governments and international organizations in shock. The United Nations held emergency discussions. Countries across Europe called for restraint. The United States expressed deep concern, while many in the Arab world closely watched the developments. Analysts feared that if escalation continued, the entire Middle East could descend into a broader war. Oil prices surged, financial markets reacted nervously, and the global economy braced for ripple effects. As days turned into weeks, the political aftershocks continued. Commentators observed that the missile strikes were not just a military operation but a turning point in regional history. They showed how fragile peace in the Middle East truly was and how quickly a confrontation could ignite flames that affected the world far beyond the region. Years may have passed since that night, but its memory has not faded. The sound of explosions, the sight of burning towers, the fear etched on the faces of civilians, all of it remains as vivid as if it happened yesterday. Those moments became a permanent scar, a reminder of how destructive modern warfare can be. The night also revealed much about power, strategy, and vulnerability. It showed that even heavily defended nations are not invincible. It demonstrated how quickly life can change from normality to chaos. And it proved that regional rivalries, if left unchecked, can threaten international stability. Iran's message that night was clear. It had the capacity to strike back. Israel's determination was equally clear. It would never accept such aggression without a response. That exchange set the stage for years of mistrust, proxy battles, and ongoing tension that still shape the politics of the Middle East today. Looking back, that night was not only about missiles and explosions, it was about human lives, about families torn apart, and about the lasting fear that war imprints on entire populations. It was a night that history will remember not just for destruction, but for the warnings it carried. Warnings about the cost of conflict, the fragility of peace, and the risks of unchecked aggression. The fire that raged on that night carried a message across the globe: when war ignites, no place is safe, no boundary is secure, and no nation can remain untouched by its consequences. The devastation in Israeli cities, the smoke that clouded the skies, and the ruins left behind are proof that those missile strikes were not just a military incident, they were a global lesson. This is why, even now, when the events of that night are recalled, people speak of it with a sense of dread and unease. It was the night when Iran's missiles shook Israel, and when the entire world realized once again how close humanity always stands to the edge of war.